Ramesh, there he is. Good morning.
I am heading towards LA, but then I am on a phone, so I wanted to be part of this meeting.
Oh yeah, very good. Very good. Yeah, so Ramesh, for your benefit, well, there's a couple of folks on the phone. Martine, Ant, Mohsen, Anand, Gunjan, and Nuno. And I know we've got a few others that are coming. So FYI. This is, and then
Okay, I was finally able to run Meshery on my Docker in my laptop while the class ending. I bought some extra RAM. I had to get some adventurous stuff too on my laptop. Finally, I was able to run directly on my laptop.
very good. Okay. And so that's actually something of a relief because running Meshery didn't mean having to buy new hardware. So that's good.
Yeah, but my thing was really constrained, so I wanted it anyway. So.
Yeah. So you may have just said it, but actually for the benefit of everyone else here, can you remind me the horsepower of your laptop?
Horsepower, it's 2012, 4 GB Mac was there, and 2012 HP Windows, I think it was Windows 8, 4 GB, and I was severely restricted.
Okay. And then did you didn't run Kubernetes locally, right? Just Meshery?
How did I do it? I went to download Meshery directly, curl it, and then ran it directly as part of Docker. But for that, I could not install Docker earlier on my machine, so now I got Docker also. So that's good.
Nice. Okay. That's awesome. Well, very good. Well then, and I think you already did it. I think you already muted because we don't hear the road anymore. So good. All right. So today is what is today? The 11th. This is I'm pretty pumped about today. Outside of it being Friday. And by the way, can everyone can hear me, right? Because I think. And your video might be frozen, which is causing me concern. Okay, you guys are there. Okay, very good. And then, I guess just out of curiosity, Ant, can you still hear us? Are you okay? You've got good video, audio. All right, good deal. Okay. Oh no. Oh no, I did it again. I joined the meeting. Okay. Very good. Okay, so Ant, I heard you for a second. So very good. You know, guys, I actually joined the meeting under the wrong browser again, and so Safari and Hangouts don't want to let me share the screen. I'm gonna bounce off and be right back on, and then we can get going. So we're a few minutes in. I'll be right back. All right, and we're back. Very good. Okay, so let's get going. I was just about to say, not only am I pumped that it's Friday, I'm also pumped because, well, I don't know if it's some of it's through Hacktoberfest and some of it's through just the good work that the community has been doing. But we have three first timers on today's call, so I'm really excited about that. Actually, and impressively so. Each of the first comers have already made a splash in the community. So And good to have you. Thanks for joining. I know it's late your time, but some of the folks in India have it worse. If that makes you feel better. And so, and then actually, this is a good time, Ant, if you want to introduce to the community and just say a couple of things about yourself, so folks can get to know you, that'd be great.
Yeah. Hi all. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Good. So yeah, I'm new here, and it's good to be. Yeah, last week I couldn't join. It's because it's Friday night here, so it's usually, you know, in Israel it's my family time, but today I found some time to join.
Awesome.
So anyway, I'm a consultant. We're a small consultancy company based in Israel. We deal with software delivery, DevOps, things around that. And we've been very interested in service meshes in the last year. So I did a couple of talks on service mesh, and I built an Istio workshop that I presented in Berlin and recently in London. So yeah, a lot of common interests. That's why when I found out about Layer5 and Meshery, I jumped on board, and I found a very welcoming community. And I'm happy to say my first 2 pull requests actually already got merged into Meshery Istio. So I'm very excited about this.
That's awesome. Well, I'm a bit saddened, I guess in a good way, that do you guys remember, was it a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I had said, oh, maybe it was a little bit earlier, I think it was Rohit, we had said like, hey, the guy set the record. It was like, he found out about the community, his PR had been merged, and he had joined the call, and it was kind of a record setting, and I think Ant may have just broken the record, so it's a bittersweet moment. That's all. By the way, so Anton, I'm assuming that you enunciated Ant for short.
Yeah, that's what folks usually call me. You know, back when actually it started in school. Then I started dealing a little bit with Java back in the days. So, and I was dealing with Java builds. So then I had this joke that people used to call me Ant, but then with time I became a little bit of a maven, and now I don't want to go back to any of this again.
Yeah, that's hysterical. There's another guy in the community. He works at Aspen Mesh, and so they run Istio as a service. I think he's the tech lead for the project. His name's Andrew Jenkins, and actually so you know where I'm going with this. But yeah, his Twitter handle is, I think it's not that Jenkins.
Not that Jenkins.
Yeah.
I saw him. Yeah.
It's been good. Actually, we've got an outstanding PR from Andrew. That's embarrassingly old. We need to go take a look at. We've given a talk or two with him, so it's been good. They've been, as a matter of fact, Garish, when you gave the last edition of the workshop in Ottawa, or no, I'm sorry, in Montreal, was it Niraj? Niraj from Aspen Mesh was there helping out?
Yes, he was. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah,
He was there pretty much like, you know, for the entire workshop. Yeah.
Those guys have been good to us. Okay, very good. And then Mohsen, MHS. First time for you as well. I'd love to get you introduced to some of the community here. I get the sense that your power using of Meshery is going to be very influential. If you're in a place where you can unmute and say a few words, we'd love to hear from you.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I am a freelance consultant, and I'm working on a service mesh. As I wrote it to you, that I'm working to have some sort of the service mesh in a multi-cluster environment with multi-controller to run a POC for a company. And so that's on my goals to find out what's the best option, what should I do, and yeah, that's
perfect. That's fantastic. I'm excited about what Meshery can or maybe what it can't do for you, and seeing how we can change that because it's a
yeah. I ran Meshery and I enjoyed a lot. That was fantastic. It's pretty easy to run and check and to do some sort of the POC. Just I am curious that how can I run a Istio with multi controller? I don't know it's possible or not. So if you give me any feedback, I appreciate for that.
let's since we're on the topic, let's explore that for a moment. And
yeah.
And so let me replay the use case that you have. I think it sounded like it was multiple regions, multiple clusters. The important part of it was that these are heterogeneous clusters, meaning in one environment you might be running Istio, in another environment it might be Linkerd.
And I don't think so that the first step, because the goal is to run. You know that JKE has published some sort of the on-premises Kubernetes clusters, such as they are running on cloud. So I'm working on that. How we should run a service mesh. For example, suppose that there is the customers that want to run JK on premises, and they have some clusters on some regions, at least 2 regions in west and east, and so they want to have a one service mesh in all of these areas. So they are thinking that they must have at least 2 controllers. That's the use case. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does. And as the customer, as they eventually, and you guide them in this, as you guys eventually select a given, or is rather, is it your intention to select a specific one and only one service mesh, and then run?
What was your question?
Is your guidance to the customer ultimately to select one of the service meshes, or is the guidance to run different flavors of service meshes?
Honestly, I don't have any answer, and I didn't specify anything to customers yet. Just because I am working on that to find out what is the best architect for this.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So this requires a bit of a longer conversation. And anyone that's on the call, feel free to speak up as I make this statement. But at least for my part, the service mesh that I'm aware of that has support for and consideration for and kind of documented deployments of multiple like federated clusters, and it's done in a couple of ways, is I'm certainly the most familiar with how Istio is approaching that and their requirements around that type of a setup. And so of the meshes that you're earnestly considering, Mohsen, is that really between Istio and Linkerd, or are you actively considering other meshes as well?
No, at this step, just Istio and Linkerd. Yeah, I don't want to focus on others. Just these 2, I think.
Got it. Okay. Then, all right. Maybe I'll take a note if it's helpful to you. And it's coming out very shortly, but Istio Up and Running is a book that is available through O'Reilly.com right now. And there's a chapter on multi-cluster and federated deployments. Maybe I'll send you a couple of notes to help advance the conversation. And when I do, I'll probably do it in the general channel so that everyone can chime in and kind of benefit as we take a look at that. I think the second, another component of what you're looking at is understanding Linkerd's support for those types of deployments. My understanding at the moment is that those would be two independent Linkerd meshes, one in GKE in cloud and one on GKE on-prem. Whatever the name of that product is, I forget. But
GK on-prem. GK on-prem.
Oh, okay. Literally GKE on-prem. Okay. Okay. I'm taking some notes in the meeting minutes to pop over some material.
I'm pretty sure console should be supporting multi-cluster because they're talking about how console is not a part of a cluster, doesn't have to be. Okay, so actually I haven't even have a blog about this.
Yeah. I'm adding and by the way, MHS, to the extent that console is a consideration, like it's a great point. I don't know if you'd like to look at that, but sounds like there's some links, and maybe Ant, if you have it, to pop it into the meeting minutes, just to.
Lee, as I know that I think that JKE uses the Istio as the default service mesh. I think that JKE's Istio is the main solution for JKE, as I know. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm right, but I think that Istio is the preferred method for JKE.
You are 100% correct. They are more than incentivized to make Istio to capitalize on their open source efforts there, and monetize Istio as part of their commercial offering. Okay, well, very good. And then, by the way, MHS, is it? Did you usually go by MHS, or is it Mohsen?
Yeah, Mohsen is okay. Mohsen is okay.
Mohsen? Okay. I was slaughtering it earlier. Okay. Very good. Good to have you on the call. I'm looking forward to helping work through some of this with you. And then Martin, also first time on the call. Martin, do you want to say a few words? Get introduced?
Hey guys, this is Martin Castre. Yeah, so I originally found Meshery via the Hacktoberfest, and immediately got great feedback and support, and so I'm very interested in continuing working with you guys. I picked up 2 of the issues on the board, and one of them got merged, so cool. And going to work a little bit more on some of the UI aspects of it. By trade, I am a lead front-end dev for a company called Regions Bank here in Birmingham, Alabama. Regions Bank is one of the larger banks in the southeast of the U.S. So definitely had a chance to work with some higher environments, and get to work a little bit more on in terms of architecture of the front end and learn more about architecture in the back end. And so when I found Meshery, I immediately went to my engineering manager and asked him, like, oh, what's the service mesh? What the hell was this? And so he explained it to me, layman's terms. Sorry, I'm not a full stack person. I started off as a designer and now I'm a developer. But he also said that they're kind of redoing the architecture of the back end for a more modular and omni-channel setup for the bank's services. And they were considering a service mesh layer. And so I immediately showed them Meshery, sent them some documentation on it, and asked them to take a look at it and see if it was a viable option. So obviously I can't make any promises, but I did show it to them because I thought it would be helpful to the bank for that kind of layer in our architecture, in our new architecture. So So yeah, so also thank you for letting me join and demoing my tiny little contribution. So
No. So Martine, I was underplaying all that you contributed in the last 4 days. So that's fantastic. We are just hungry for feedback, and so things like that Mohsen is doing, and the way that Ant is taking helping customers get meshy. Is just very helpful for understanding, helping guide the roadmap of Meshery itself. And I would also say that there's very few. We've had lots and lots of folks come through the community and come on the calls. There's many people who will come once every other time, or they do what they can. And my point is, 5% of them have known what a mesh is before coming on the call. I mean, you're in very good company. It's early technology. This is a good place to cut your teeth on a lot of things. So, actually, since we've got you and we're kind of talking about some of the things that you've done, if you're in a place to show that contribution and maybe show the icons, that this could be a good time to get some feedback. Good to get those demos.
yeah, sounds good. Let's see. I'm gonna start sharing, I guess. Sharing.
And just a housekeeping item: if you're on the call and your name, and Ramesh, we've recorded your name in the meeting minutes, but anyone else, feel free to slap your name in there. And as a matter of fact, please help us take meeting minutes, because I'm only able to do one thing somewhat well at a time.
Okay. You guys see the GitHub page?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so the first thing I picked up was this feature called the collapsible navigation menu. And if you're familiar with the Meshery UI, it has a fixed sidebar, and it has the several layers of navigation here. And so, Lee was asking for something similar to this, where you can collapse it to an icon-only view, give more workspace real estate for the user on the main area. So, we got Meshery running locally. And I added this little icon here for collapse, and it does that. So really simple. Another thing I added was just to make sure these icons lined up on toggle. So another thing we might need to look at is potentially adding some visualization that there are layers to this. So maybe like a little divider between each of the main. So like the performance is one, management is one level, and then perhaps maybe a little divider here to give that kind of this is part of this thing, and so on. So, yeah, it was pretty much just a easy React state management variable that I added. Just is there collapsed on the navigator.js file. And really, you can do all this functionality with just CSS classes. So ultimately, very good, very easy to do. I'm not as familiar with the Material UI framework, so I got to learn a little bit more about that and how you guys use it. What else? So yeah.
That's a great point that you made about the the levels of the level of depth in the menu items. I hadn't considered that didn't occur to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd definitely be good to, because visually there's a little distinction here. So yeah.
And then I think a bonus. So there's a couple of nice things. One, pure CSS. That's fantastic. Two, if you minimize to a mobile view or a mobile width,
yeah.
we're getting the benefit there as well. So previously we were having the hamburger was showing up, right?
Okay. Yeah. So But yeah, so I didn't think it would make a lot of sense to have a collapsible icon for here because it, kind of user might need to see those values. And you never know what kind of device size the user will be on. So I think the hamburger icon route was a good call, especially for you got seven nav items. There could be more. So it doesn't really make sense to do maybe like a bottom drawer nav like you see on like Facebook or whatever mobile apps. So definitely think that what you have as it stands now is good. But of course, we can do some more enhancements and stuff in mobile view.
Yeah, that's I'm taking it. I'm screenshotting that mobile view now, or the multi-line where we've got the user icon and the other areas of navigation. Yeah, to your point, that need to be checked. So this is awesome. Any other feedback for Martine? This is it's fantastic. This is the icon that you use for the collapsible action. And yeah, and Nikhil, if you have feedback, please jump in. But Martine, that icon did. I don't know that I've seen that one before.
Yeah, I designed it.
Oh, I see. Okay, all right. It's gotta that would be why.
Yeah. We can go with a different icon. It doesn't matter to me. Another cool thing we could possibly add as an enhancement is to animate the icon to maybe change the arrow back to the other way. So obviously this means close it, and then we could face the arrow the other way to open it. But future enhancement or.
I'm writing it down. Makes a ton of sense. Yeah. Anybody else have feedback here? And then this is also Martine and by the way, it's Martine, correct? Not
yes.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. Wow. Yeah. Thank you. Excellent. And then I think you've already jumped into well. So if you were to navigate to like the Istio section, or if you want to show it here.
Use me, sir.
Yeah. So this the other one.
Sorry for the interruption, sir. I had a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah. After we configure Kubernetes in the cluster, then if we that means swapped it, the mini drawer comes in. Then how will it display? Will there be a gap or the inner icon will open? Because in the submenus there will be 3 more submenus will be added for Istio, Linked, and console.
Right. Yeah. So that's where the idea of a collapsible menu kind of falters, is that there's very little visual clue as to which icons apply to which key, kind of moving them all into one level. And so one idea would be to possibly do some kind of divider or some kind of clue in between the icons to indicate that there's more than one level. And of course, the user can always toggle it back and forth to see. Another thing I wanted to add, it's when you, the problem with having just an icon interface is that it's hard to distinguish what icons represent what. And so I wanted to add a title attribute to these, just the names of the items here. So when they hover over it, they'll see a tooltip saying what it is. That way you don't lose any kind of what does this icon mean and so on.
Totally.
Okay.
While we're taking down the task list, there's there's a couple of items that from the top 3 menu items are off white, and then we're doing a poor job of being consistent with the rest, and So there's but those icons, those projects, they all come in white as well, or off white. I mean, we can homogenize those. There's actually on this note, and it's maybe a good thing for all of us to reflect on for a moment, and that is that this has a little bit to do with the architecture of Meshery. Martine, if you were in an environment where, and as a matter of fact, I think, because you're running Meshery not in a container, but locally on your machine, part of your connection to the other adapters isn't quite there. But, and so part of the experience, actually, if you were able to go back to the collapsible navigation menu issue, in the screenshot, it shows you that there's actually a third level of nav. And so this is, Girish and others that have been around Meshery for some time. What this is showing you is, hey, there are 3 adapters connected, one for Istio, one for Linkerd, one for console. The way that the adapters work today is, and the architecture is flexible enough that one adapter can manage, to Mohsen's use case, one Meshery Istio adapter can interface with any number of Istio deployments, or it's designed to be that way. And I guess my point is, because of that, I don't know that we're really going to arrive at a place where, like for Mohsen, if he had an Istio on GKE and an Istio deployment in GKE on-prem, it's really only going to require one adapter for him to be able to use Meshery to interface with both. So I think you get where I'm going, which is, I don't know that we need this third level of depth. Girish or any others, you guys want to correct those statements? That line of thinking?
Well, there's one thing.
Like, so we will not have a category, but rather just the adapters listed.
Actually, we would just, and so somebody else was speaking right at the same time Girish was going to say something.
Yeah. So what I was saying that, while developing at least, I ran my own Meshery Istio adapter, another one on a different port. So that way, on my interface, I actually had 2 under Istio. And that's something that could happen probably. So maybe we still do need this. I even was thinking, while you were speaking, Leah, I was thinking of, showing a number saying like Istio, like if there are none connected, then it would be 0. And if there is more than one connected, then you would show I have 3 Istio adapters connecting to different Istio deployments or something like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. You could kind of do like a notification.
I'm not sure. Not sure if it makes sense, but it's possible to run it this way.
So this is go ahead, Ramesh.
Hey, so I had a question. Do we need to configure the adapters before we start Meshery? Let's say if some important processes are running in production for a lot of big clients and big large-scale clusters, if they want to have a new adapter for the new mesh, should we stop this and restart, or we can just add it dynamically?
You can add it dynamically. Yep.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm going to call out.
Confirming that, yeah.
No, go ahead. And so before I forget, I think we might be, I don't know if this is a record today or not. We can't have too many records, otherwise. We've got some record holders on the call. So Chaim, who's on the call, continues to hold a record for externally contributed adapter. And so he wrote the Octarine adapter. It's awesome. But with Rafi just having joined, there's 4 first timers on the call, and I'm not sure if that's a record or not. But I'm really excited about it either way. So this is great. Of the topic at hand, though, this is pretty interesting, and it's kind of neat that the architecture is flexible and powerful enough that you can represent the interaction in a couple of different ways. Before expressing an opinion, let me state a future vision for Meshery. Or rather not a future vision, but just a future functionality that that should be there. Let me see if I can show my screen so I can show just a different interface. Okay, so if anyone so I'm running Meshery locally. So I'm on an iMac. Meshery is running locally. It's got each of these 3 adapters connected. And so as I sit here on one of these adapters, how do I? That right now within Meshery, the concept of an environment, if you go to the settings area, it's in a very, very nascent way begun to be formed. The environment as an object, as a thing that has relationships, and as a formal noun, if you will, inside of the project. We have an implicit environment, and the implicit environment is that really in the project you cannot define multiple environments. Implicitly there is one environment, and that's Meshery, and it's pointed at various service meshes. In the future, for many of you, I think it probably makes, I'm going to put some words in your mouth and say that it probably makes some intuitive sense that and certainly for Mohsen, that you've got multiple environments. You've got things on-prem, things in this cloud, things in that cloud. You've got things in the same cloud that are just different clusters that are not intended to be connected to one another, potentially. And then Meshery can help you get a view across all of them. And so my point being is that you're likely to want to define different environments. You're likely to want to connect to different Kubernetes clusters. Even in the most simplest of use cases of running a small workload on Kubernetes, in production, you probably have a production environment, and hopefully you've got at least a staging or a development or a QA. You've got multiple environments. And so my point is the concept of an environment needs to come forth as a first-class citizen within the project. As it does, a manifestation of that construct environment is likely to be shown with here when you're interfacing with a service mesh, that you would say, great. As a matter of fact, you wouldn't, as a user, you probably generally don't care that much about the fact that there's a Meshery Istio adapter. You kind of don't care that much about the architecture of Meshery as a user, because hey, if Meshery lets you interface with multiple meshes, awesome. What I do care about is what service mesh deployment am I interfacing with now? Which one of those am I going to configure and mess with? And that's the selection that needs to come forth, in this page. It's either things about environment, or the name of the instance, kind of to Ant's point, where the way that he was achieving this, having Meshery interface with 2 different service mesh instances. In this case, it was of the same type. It was Istio. One of those ways of doing it was deploying multiple copies of the same adapter. That's a supported scenario, and that's perfect. But if one adapter is, and so I think we need to write some things down and have the community, have each of you guys kind of reflect on it. That I think, in my perspective, is you might deploy a second adapter maybe for resiliency, or maybe because it was literally deployed, that adapter was deployed remotely or something like that, but that you wouldn't, or that if you just want to, fine, but that Meshery wouldn't force you to deploy one adapter per mesh, that you can deploy one adapter and have that one Istio adapter interface with multiple Istios. And so as such, yeah, we'll want to, I think that, I guess my point is, I don't know if by default, if we necessarily, like certainly by default right now, unless you're an advanced user like Ant, you probably don't need to see these submenu items. All you really need to see is the ability to click on Istio itself. You don't, as a user, you don't need to know that, oh, you're running an adapter on this port and thing. Generally, you don't. So what I'm getting to is I think we can eliminate, this is powerful and good. I'm glad that, Girish, that you had spent the time to make sure that we had that flexibility. But we might be able to simplify and really maybe only show this second level of depth, or this third level of depth rather, as and when there's a multiple of the same type of adapter deployed. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think that sounds okay. I think if you have like the least amount of menu items, the better. That's like a general case, but the fact that you can just click on Istio and then see all the adapters and things connected, and that like you have like an Istio dashboard. And I think we could leverage something where, kind of like in Slack, where you have like a number of unread messages next to the person's name. We could do something like that for a number of adapters connected, like a notification dot or something. That way you're still aware of how many adapters are connected. And then we don't need the third layer of navigation. You can just click on the Istio. You see you have 2 connections on Istio, clicking that up, and then in this view, you could possibly see the connected adapters and the ports and stuff. So it's definitely something we can do, and I'm more than happy to mock up some for you guys. So.
Please, yeah, this is good. Yep. Or just an initial feedback is, yeah, if you were to, maybe it would be like Istio, like parentheses 3 or so, or not, it doesn't have to be parentheses, but maybe not exactly the bubble, just because people might actually literally consider that there's a warning or a notification or an issue that they've got.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, no, and I think what we're trying to collectively achieve is not removing power and flexibility, because that was put in there on purpose, but simplifying the interface such that it's still understandable, that you still can get access to those multiple adapters, and you're aware that they're there, but it doesn't need to be in your face. It's actually, Martin, to your point, right now, if you were to try to navigate to a given category, if you will, or a given Istio or Linkerd, it actually doesn't go anywhere in that. That's
yeah.
Okay. So 15 minutes left. Rafi, I'm gonna call you out. Rafi, if you guys don't know, if you haven't read his personal blog recently, you're missing out. Rafi, do you want to introduce?
Sure. So, hi, my name's Rafi. I'm a student from Toronto, Canada. I stumbled upon Layer5 through Hacktoberfest, which, if you don't know, is an open source kind of community event where we get, I guess, first-time contributors to, dabble in new projects and such. So I discovered Layer5. I was surprised by the welcoming community, and I really decided to, make this, my focus for at least half of Hacktoberfest, the first 2 contributions. So I made a contribution, and I thought it was really cool. So I kind of wrote it up on a blog post, and somehow Lee discovered it and networked with me a bit, and it was really surprising and nice to see that. So I really appreciate Lee and Layer5 and what they're doing. I don't understand it yet, but I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to listen in and just experience all this cool technical stuff.
Oh man, that's awesome. I am Martine. I know what you're thinking, man. It's solidarity with Rafi in terms of like much of the rest of us. We're all in kind of the same we don't understand it boat. So which is awesome because I learn something every time that I'm on this call.
Yeah. It's really, there's just so much to learn when you're just starting out. There's all these different branches, all these places to go. So I really appreciate the opportunities just to learn about the little things, the things that Layer5 uses, even stuff like Jekyll and Liquid for your static site that you use. All these small things I appreciate. And who knows? Maybe service meshes are in my future. I don't know, but I'm just willing to trot down this path and work with you guys a little bit more and see how things go.
Let me speak. I know hopefully this is a good reminder for the rest of everyone else, and hopefully my next statements aren't a boring broken record thing, but is to say that well, it was a couple of, well, actually, so here's some new things. So most of you are familiar with the CNCF, the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, that has a number of projects not dissimilar from Meshery. Many of you have heard me say in the past that Meshery is probably headed that way, that is our intention to go and get the support of that organization, to benefit from the marketing machine that foundation is, and to help with just some of the infrastructure governance and other things. And so my point there is to Rafi's sort of premonition that maybe meshes, or maybe he's got a meshy future, is that I hope that you guys do earnestly, like the more that I hope that it works out, that not only are you learning as you're going through this, but that it feels good to have a place to be creative, to learn in a low pressure, friendly environment, hopefully. And then as part of that, it's going to take a while. I mean, but Mohsen is here and already showing that it doesn't necessarily take that long, but it's going to take a while, but done well. You mark today's date, because I would say that you'll get more feedback than you ever desired. If we're doing the right thing here, the things that you will see your work used, my hope is extraordinarily broadly and on something of a world stage. As a matter of fact, that this work has been up, Girish has taken the work up on KubeCon stage multiple times now, and he'll be doing it again at the upcoming KubeCon. And as a matter of fact, at NSMCon, NSM is another service mesh, that network service mesh. Anyway, my point is, I hope that the effort that all of you put in pays back 20-fold. The other thing I would say along that same point, I just got done establishing a new special interest group. And so Chaim, I'm not sure if this is of interest to you. It may be of interest to all of you, but is a new special interest group in the CNCF. It's called the Network SIG. It will be, governing body is a really strong term. It'll be a venue for stewardship of Linkerd, Envoy, Core DNS, gRPC, CNI, NATS, some other things. And my hope is at some point Meshery as well. If anyone's interested in that, there's actually links, I think, in the meeting minutes before. So, but that's good. And so I guess what I was just trying to tie in the fact that I think that it's hopefully it's a reality that the work will get pretty broadly exposed. So lastly, since Rafi's here and since you just got introduced, Rafi, I don't know if you want to. There's many folks that are on the call that will end up focusing on Meshry, but of some of the contributions that you've done have been within the service mesh landscape, which is a project unto its own. And it's really like an unopinionated project at the moment, which means that it's not pissing anyone off, but at some point it needs to, because at some point, Mohsen asked a great question earlier this week. He's like, hey, I need a development environment. I need to run a mesh inside of it. Hey, which service mesh do you feel like might be, good for a development environment?
Right.
And the thing is if the landscape was doing ultimately its job, if you will, it would answer some of those questions, or it would lead people to help answer those questions themselves. Because today it's an index of facts.
Yes.
And actually, Rafi, if you have it handy, if you could bring it up, not only can people kind of familiarize with what we're talking about, but then you can also show off your enhancements.
Yeah, I suppose I could bring that up. Although I'm, again, a bit of a novice with presenting here on Google Hangouts, but this can be presenting. Let's see, I think. I don't want to waste your meeting time with figuring out the technical details, but in any case, I did work on the Layer 5 landscape page, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. I basically just fixed some styling and got the tables to sort when you click on the column headers there. So I guess. Like what you're saying, Lee, is right now it's kind of neutral. People can make their own conclusions, but ultimately the goal is to have recommendations for service meshes.
Yeah, and run the risk of making friends and making enemies at the same time. But
that's interesting.
And maybe I would try to couch them. So I've done a bit of this work in the past for the CNCF. Actually, they've commissioned for similar work, and yeah, I guess one of the first things I was considering that we would put up is so not a recommendation per se, but a spectrum, a comparative spectrum of something like on one side it's sort of easy to use, simple to install, less powerful, because those things, they don't all go hand in hand, but they just often do. On the other end, very powerful, tons of features, highly scalable, hard to use, hard to understand. Kind of a very general, like something where technically and then sort of lay out each of these on a spectrum. And maybe have multiple spectrums and not clump together all the considerations that I just said, but
right.
And then the thing is that's pretty factual. Like it's just sort of a fact. If you're saying and by the way, most of this is filled out by these projects themselves, so the accuracy is unto their own cognition. It's up to them. But if they're saying they have support for this, then we're just laying it out in a visual way, because it's hard for a human's eyes to sort of track across this and say, okay, well, clearly it's Kong, and so Kong is what I need to use.
Yeah, that's interesting. Definitely could look into that. Sounds like something like a lot of services that deal with like computer components will have like benchmarking functionalities. And like comparisons and stuff. So it sounds like a little project in and of itself, maybe separate from the service mesh landscape page.
Or a refactored landscape to include it, or link to it because it's on a new page, because it's so engaging that it only makes sense to kind of have it on its own page.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love it if that was something that you noodled on and had a perspective on. I'm trying to look up really quick some of the prior art here that would help give you some perspective or inspiration.
Sure.
As you think about it. So, okay. So having said all that, we've got just about 4 or 5 minutes left. I want to make sure that if anyone, okay, Nuno had to go. And so Nuno, thanks so much for your answers this week on Windows. He's gone. Of the 4 or 5 minutes left, did anyone have something else that a topic they wanted to bring up, or work that they wanted to demo?
Well, I basically just wanted to understand what's happening with all, the new meshes that have been announced lately, like Mesh and Kuma, and if there's any work already being done in that aspect.
Yeah, that's a great, for Mesh, for both, yes, the Kuma work is hopeful in that we haven't engaged with Kong just yet. There is a repo, there's a Meshery Kuma adapter repo that's really just like, it should be building at the moment. It's just kind of the vanilla adapter. So that's a to-do item for us. And is something that sounds like a point of interest to you, which means that whether you like it or not, you'll be copied on the communication and invited to any discussions that we have. So, but
yeah,
then,
sure. Send everything my way. I'll filter it out.
Cool. The other one is with Mesh. So yeah, we've had a couple of meetings now with the continuous folks, and articulated. There's an adapter repo there. It too is building. It doesn't have anything Mesh specific. Garish has written up the list of kind of steps of things that various gRPC interfaces that need to be completed. Provided that to a guy named Daniel, who's actually in Canada as well. Garish, did Daniel say what town in Canada he's in? What city? Was it Toronto?
I don't remember him mentioning that. Somewhere in Saskatchewan, what I remember.
Saskatchewan, okay.
Or was it Manitoba?
So,
I forgot. Like, it is one of two provinces, Saskatchewan or Manitoba.
I guess the point is, so, and I'm going to backfill you on some mail threads and some discussions to help ramp you. I think we mentioned it a couple of times in here. So Daniel, so part of our time is spent inside of the service mesh interface group, or Meshery is and I think you know this maybe, or maybe, I don't know if you've seen it, but Meshery is an SMI partner.
Yes, yeah, I think.
And Martine, this should upset you that this logo is just being proliferated everywhere. So we gotta fix that. But anyway, point is Daniel of Continuous was happy to see us there and happy to have him us sort of welcome him into this community, the SMI community. And so yeah, he had committed to helping write a Meshery Mesh adapter.
Mm-hmm.
We need to re-engage him because, like everyone else, he got busy and hasn't come back. But it's yep. So great question. Yeah, I'm too many got announced, like 3 in 1 week or what have you. It's like, yeah, we just. Yeah.
It's been crazy.
Anybody have anything else? Sensitive to ending on time for folks.
Yeah, one more thing I wanted to ask is, like, where are we with the running benchmarks on different measures? Because this seems like, this could be a good purpose for the project, and also something that could contribute to the public relations or marketing of the project. Definitely, if we could have some actual benchmark results to show.
And you are totally right that Meshery as a project is complementary to anything else, everything else in this space, in so much as it's performance testing. That's a general public service that is one of the questions that everybody has. And so one of the foundational use cases for creating the project, that to answer your question, a couple of things just got exposed this week. So anytime when folks run Meshery and they run a performance benchmark, there is a small database, I think a Postgres database running in an AWS free tier account that collects the anonymous performance statistics. And there have been 456 of those run by whomever, whenever. It's part of the intention here is to eventually have amassed enough that we can statistically say any number of things. This is how much overhead you would expect in general. You're going to pay for the value provided somewhere. It's a really frustratingly complicated thing because it depends on so many variables that are, the environments that they run in, the type of tests that you ran, all these things. We think we're close to having gathered all of the necessary information to be able to make a statement. Part of what we hope for the project is to be able to show in the project, if you run a performance test in Meshery, in the interface itself, is to show back is to say to someone, great, you've got an 80% score, meaning for all of the others that have run this in the same type of environment under similar conditions, you're performing this well, or this is what you're paying. Kind of like you would do an internet bandwidth speed test, and it tells you, you've got 5 megs up and 2 megs down or whatever. And by the way, you're getting ripped off because on the same ISP, your neighbor's getting a lot higher, or whatever. So that's part of the vision, part of the goal. This is part of where we're beginning to expose these statistics. Hopefully we're going to have, to your point about marketing and kind of just general good marketing for the project, general goodwill to those that are currently adopting and will be adopting for years to come. Google, IBM, Buoyant, HashiCorp, and I think we might have twisted Heim's arm at one point. Each of those service mesh providers have committed to incorporating Meshery into their release process and using Meshery as a consistent tool and a consistent format for publishing their performance tests. And so the status of it is right now, Google is most prominently saying, hey, we're ready to engage. We'll help dedicate an engineer. Let's go. And there's too few of us focused full time. We need to go back and engage. So I'll ramp you on the current test plans and the folks involved, and we really need to go do that. We really need to finish that piece off, finish that initial use case off with a loud splash. So, because
sounds good.
So sorry. So that was 5 more minutes of me going on. It's good to have all you guys, particularly for the first time. So we're pumped. Same time next week. It's a bring your own coffee meeting. So,
yes, for all of your information. Thank you.
Thank you for coming, Mohsen.
Yeah, thank you, Lee, for having me. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lee. Take care. Bye, all of you.
See you guys.
All right.
Yeah, see you guys.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.